We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Welcome to This Song Is Yours, the podcast where we explore the art of songwriting, celebrate incredible artists, and dive deep into the stories behind their music. I'm your host, Simon Fink, and as always, thank you for joining us. Our guest today on the podcast is alternative songwriter and artist Perfume Genius. The musical project of Mike Hadreas, Perfume Genius has been nothing short of a music chameleon throughout its existence. First emerging with delicate, sparse acoustic records, Mike has spent the past 15 years fearlessly pushing sonic boundaries, venturing into 80s pop, chamber pop, classic and alternative rock, and countless other genres in between. His artistry has earned him Grammy and GLAAD award nominations and collaborations with artists like the Yeah Yeah Yeahs and recent podcast guest Sharon van Etten. Today he releases his 7th Perfume Genius record, Glory. It finds Mike once again expanding the sound of his project, stepping into indie rock and Americana influences while maintaining his signature emotional depth. In today's episode, we're speaking with Mike Hadreas about Glory and how this new sound developed organically. We explore the album's themes, touching on mortality and the inevitable passage of time, and how he still balances those weighty subjects with moments of levity. We also chat about bringing his band into the creative process in a new way for this very record. Now we want to say a massive thank you to Daisy for her help with today's episode. Glory, the brand new record from Perfume Genius, is out right now. We've left links in the show notes where you can purchase the album and follow Perfume Genius across all of their socials. While you're there, please make sure to follow us on our socials and subscribe to this very podcast. And if you're feeling generous, please leave us a rating or a review. It really does help. Now let's get into it. Here is Mike Hadreas, aka Perfume Genius.
It's only dust, kicked up and lost, finding an end.
Please welcome to This Song Is Yours, Perfume Genius, aka Mike Hadreas. Mike, hello, how are you?
Good. Hi, thanks for having me.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having a chat with us on the podcast about this brand new record of yours. It's called Glory. It's out this week when people are listening to our chat. But firstly, congratulations. How are you feeling with this new record coming out?
I mean, I'm excited. It's been, I wrote it a long time ago and I even recorded it a while ago. So you have this big thing to share, but you're kind of sitting on it for a long time. So I'm excited to be out.
It is a stunning record. So again, congratulations on this. I know it's the 7th record in your Perfume Genius kind of project discography. Even after 7 records, is there still elements of nerves, elements of anxiety or anticipation when it comes to putting out a new record and kind of seeing how it's received?
I mean, I think it's better if there is nerves and it feels risky still. I think the music's better, the performances are better. Like, it takes a while to live alongside the anxiety, you know what I mean? And realize that it's fuel and try to utilize it and, get out of your comfort zone so that you can try new things and maybe get better at old ones. But it takes a while to reckon with, I think.
100%. It does. This brand new record, Glory, does, I don't want to say totally shift away, but it's bringing in different elements sonically. Like I feel that you have with like each record that has kind of come before it. I think that Set My Heart on Fire was more of like an 80s pop, and then No Shape was almost like a little bit of like alternative pop, whereas this one has touches of, I want to say there's little touches and lilts of indie rock. There's almost like a little bit of Americana or a little bit of twang here with this Perfume Genius record. When you're kind of going into this whole new process of recording a new record, I know that Blake Mills, who is the producer across a number of these records, is kind of maybe the constant, but other than Blake, do you ever revisit those previous records sonically to work out where you're then going, like stepping forward?
I think with this record, it was more lyrical. Like I thought about the lyrics from the first couple records that I'm really proud of those records. And I thought about how I wrote then, especially how I was writing before it was monetized or there was pressure on it, or I was, self-conscious, or I don't know. There's a kind of grace that was just built into that because I wasn't being looked at. But then there was also like a real sense of duty and responsibility when I was, playing shows and realized people are listening to my music. So it's like, how do I harness both of those things, because I know I want it to be impactful and meaningful to other people, not just to me. So I have to start somewhere very personal, but then give access. But sonically, I'm not loyal to anything. Like even on my records from song to song, I'm not thinking they have to have some cohesion or like, I don't really think about it, honestly. I'm sure that like subconsciously sometimes I can really tell what the influences are, and sometimes I can't, and sometimes I can, and I purposely try to rebel against it. So it's all kind of, I think I know when I land on the thing that it's supposed to be, but I don't really care what that is going into it. Usually because I'm wrong. If I ever try to make like a dark, like a goth dance song and then sit down, I feel like you should just see what's actually there, not try to force it. I mean, I can make an okay goth dance pop out song on purpose, but if to make a really good one, I feel like it has to just like show up like that.
I think that is very, very fair. I think that I'm glad, however, this kind of record has taken place, and however, whether intentional, whether it just kind of fell into place once kind of sitting down to write, that it has worked out the way that it has. Sonically, it's gorgeous. Lyrically, it's gorgeous as well. I think that there are elements of this new record that are still very Perfume Genius focused in terms of what do we have? Like there's the thoughts of life and the inevitable decay that we will all see. I think that there's elements of love and different kind of elements of love and life and how those two play together. But it almost seems that this time around it's from a more like a place of acceptance almost, like that it's a less of an anxiety, less of a looking forward, and more of a dealing or processing it now that it's there. I could be totally off the money as well with that.
I mean, in some place, I think that's the goal anyway. Sometimes the songs are aspirational because that's what I'm craving. And I think that's what I need right now is like a acceptance or a resignation to how things are. And I think when I was younger, I was really obsessed with trying to fix them or change how I was feeling or change my circumstances. I don't know, like looking for like a tidy answer. And I feel like this record is a lot more just kind of a dump of like just the question and just the idea and letting it all ring out like good and bad and, all the beautiful, sweet parts of things and all the like heartbreaking, terrifying parts of it all, and having that all exist at the same time, which is hard to do, honestly.
100%. That's kind of where I was almost going to go with this, if that's okay to talk about, is that how do you find that process of it can be really difficult to address, especially the inevitable passage of time, I guess, in a different way to put it. How do you even begin to approach writing about that in a way that feels natural, that is not depressing or kind of doomsday-esque in a way, but that still has, because I think that part of Perfume Genius's magic is the fact that it still manages to seem light and seem positive, even though it may not be. How do you even begin to approach that? I guess, what is the process?
I think I'm able to do it when I'm writing and when I'm singing and when I have that portal, like that framework. Mm-hmm. Also it's very easy for me to see in other people and other things, like their goodness and their beauty, and be more even in my thinking about them regardless of what they've done or they've been through or what they think about themselves, you know, but it's really hard to apply all that to me just walking through my life. And I'm glad I have the music because it reminds me that it's in there. Like if I have access to it, even for just writing or for a song, it means that it's available somewhere, even if I can't get it all the time. But still, what happens is that I know that it's true. Like the older I get, the more I realize that just because I'm feeling a certain way doesn't mean that that's how it is. Just because I think the world is ending doesn't mean it is, or that I'm horrible doesn't mean that I am, you know. But the other thing is that the world could be ending. So it's like, how do you figure out what to set down and what to hold? And if the things that you have, you know, you don't want to avoid the things that are happening outside of the world, and you don't want to ignore the things going on with you and all the things that kind of like are barriers to, I don't know, serenity or something. But you don't want to be bowled over by them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And with music and stuff, I'm able to zoom out. And with other people, I'm able to zoom out. And I wish I could do that more all the time. But I don't really, even saying all that, I don't really have an answer for it. But it is really relieving just to say that and have, you know, that's why I listen to music and I watch movies too. It's because I want to have like a mirror to how I'm feeling, you know, and that is comforting.
100%. I imagine that there is, and I know sometimes it's very cliche to use the word catharsis when it does come to songwriting, but I think that there must be a level of relief when you are able to even voice your own opinions on that and kind of have it out into the ether, because it's one less thing that's kind of rattling around in the brain, but you can address it. You can kind of look at it as its own kind of personal thing. So thank you very much for addressing the question. As you said, it is a very big question to kind of to answer. With this new record with Glory, I am aware that there was more of a collaborative approach this time. I think that, as we mentioned, Blake Mills is a producer, and I know that also your co-writer and collaborator, Alan, please tell me if I'm pronouncing this incorrectly, Wiffles?
Weifels.
Oh, so close. Apologies, Alan. That they obviously have contributed to previous records as well, but I believe this time the touring band and some touring musicians were kind of brought in terms of the arrangements and how they were built, and I imagine that's kind of a different sense of relief, or at least a different sense of letting go in a way when it does come to making music.
I mean, it's always been very collaborative in the studio and in different directions and amounts and everything, but I wrote all these songs just on piano and vocal, and maybe some harmonies, you know, maybe a couple, you know, little synth things, but barely. Most of it was just piano and vocal. But for lots of records, I go into the studio with really full demos of, like, you know, choral things that I'm trying to do, or just like trumpets, and I mean, all stuff I'm doing at home and not very well sometimes, but like a real aesthetic kind of going in, and it can shift completely. Like we can throw it all away once I get there if we want to, but I purposely didn't even go that far in the demos. And while I was writing, left room for Alan and Blake and the band. And I think even when it was just me singing, they felt bandy to me, you know. And I think that some of like the twangy Americana stuff is that it felt like classic or something, or American, not in a direct way, but indirectly. Also, it's just kind of, you know, every record, it's fun to kind of try things on, and like, what would especially if it's a kind of music that I don't really feel, I feel on the outside of or something, even if I'm a fan of it, you know what I mean? That I don't really feel like I'm literally hearing my story in it, which maybe is impossible if someone else is telling theirs, but like, it's fun to inhabit. But also just kind of organically happens, and I don't really think about it that much. but I guess sometimes people think it sounds countryish, but I was kind of thinking it sounded grungy,
Mm-hmm.
you know. I don't really hear country on the record, but I do hear like, I don't know, I'm so bad with genres, even with other people. But REM maybe there's some indie
Mm-hmm.
energy for sure.
Definitely. I think I don't know if they still kind of use the genre phrasing or whatever it may be in 2025, but almost like college rock in a way that REM were in their first kind of few records. So I can definitely see that. Wondering if I might be a little bit selfish and just ask about one of my favorite tracks on the record was Capizio. There is this beautiful, mysterious, almost kind of dance that the melody is doing with the arrangement, in terms of that it's almost like an unsettling, almost like an uneasiness sonically when you're going through it, and then the lyrical content appears to be, from an outsider's perspective, talking about two people who are kind of working the heightening feelings either towards one another or from one another. I did struggle, but there was something that kept me coming back to this track time and time again, trying to kind of work it out, which I loved. I love a good mystery in a song. Wondering whether you might be able to share with us a little bit more about that song and where it came from.
There's actually 3 people in the song, but the song is really about 2 people using someone else to communicate with each other. Sort of using them as a buffer between the 2 of you to experiment or play or engage with each other in whatever capacity, or dance, just exchange energy, and I'm being really vague because I don't want to, because it makes me feel shy. But it's also, fiction too. Mm-hmm. Like there's 2 very real people in there, but it's storified and everything. And what I like about the song itself is that it's pointy, but it's also, some of the darker undercurrents are like a wash, and they're kind of, I like these sort of tension between all of those things, like just a sudden clang, but then like a really relieving, like a hum. It's really satisfying to me.
It is masterfully done. So thank you very much for kind of indulging me and sharing that with us. I know that there's quite a few.
In another interview, I went too far into what it was about, and I got embarrassed afterwards. Like, oh God. That's why I'm media training myself in real time.
Look, there is no stress with that, and I appreciate any insight. So thank you very much for sharing what you did. I know that there's a bunch of tour dates kind of on the schedule for yourself. I think some festivals and some US tour dates. Curious whether there's a new track, not necessarily a new track, but a track from Glory, this new record, that you're most looking forward to kind of taking into the live arena and playing around with.
Well, there's a song called Left for Tomorrow that I can't barely listen to without getting really emotional, like kind of overtaken by it. And it starts with a very long, the whole song was written, the chords and the melody and everything, but the way that we did it in the studio was a really long improvisation, just kind of like riffing on the chords. And I was going to come in when it felt right, but I let them kind of play for very long time, like 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And then I just came in and sang the song, and then it kept going after. And the track ended up being a snapshot of that, essentially. Like some of the outro was cut, some of the intro was cut. But to me, why I like that, because it feels like it never really began or ended. It kind of just, the recording and the spirit of it is really like moving to me and like really meaningful. So I hope I can do it without getting emotional. I'm sure I will, because I don't know, it's my job. I've been doing it for a long time. I sing all kinds of sad songs now, and I don't feel sad. I'm not being fake or something, but they're like known to me, so I know how to like go in there,
100%. I think that's very fair. Very excited for some of these shows. We're hopefully going to catch you on one of those US tour dates in May. It does seem like a bit of a silly question, but I think I almost kind of have to do it for a lot of the people who listen to us here in Australia. Can we maybe expect to see any Australian dates at some point in the future?
We have to. We have to come. Do you know what I mean? You just have to. So, yeah, you can expect me. I just don't know when it's specifically yet.
Totally fair. We'll gladly take that. Even the you have to, we'll gladly wear. Mike, we usually ask, I guess, what they're currently listening to wrap things up. For yourself, is there anything that's on high rotation at the moment?
I really like the 1010 Banjo album that came out, I think, last year. Mm-hmm. The Christopher Owen record that came out that year too. I like the OK Lou record. Mm-hmm. What's on repeat that I've been listening to? Brandy. I've been listening to Glycerine a lot, the Bush song. We like it on repeat. And I like the OK Kaya record too.
Some very, very good selections in there. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. And Mike, thank you for coming to have a chat with us on the podcast. The brand new Perfume Genius record is out this week. It's called Glory. It is a fantastic record, and we'll make sure all the links on where you can purchase it, follow the band, all those kind of things are in the show notes. But Mike, thank you so much for coming to chat with us.
Thanks for talking to you. Sorry it was late.